What up, doe? Welcome to the D. From the concrete of Gratiot to the hustle of 7 Mile. From the parties at Hart Plaza to the late nights on Jefferson. This is Detroit Tales and Stories, where the Motor City's realest stories come alive. We're taking you back to when the streets had their own rules, when your whip spoke louder than words, and when survival meant everything. The mid-'80s to the 2000s, when Detroit was raw, uncut, and unforgettable. These are the stories they don't tell you about, straight from the heart of the D. Detroit Tales and Stories. Real stories. Real Detroit. Real talk. The bass from Bone Thugs and Harmony's First of the Month rattled every window on Livernois Avenue as Marcus Mays Williams counted the morning's take in the back office of Primo's Car Wash. 3,700 in crumpled 20s and 10s, still reeking of nervous sweat mixed with that unmistakable smell of Newport cigarettes and desperation. The cologne of fiends who'd rather die than face another day without their morning blast. Through the grimy office window, Marcus watched his '94 Lexus LS400 gleaming under the October sun, its custom wire wheels catching light like promises. The pearl white paint job had cost him $3,000, but in Detroit's street economy, your ride was your resume. The 20-inch Daytons weren't just rims, they were statements, declarations that Marcus Williams had made it from Charlevoix street corner boy to legitimate businessman, at least on paper. Shit's getting too hot out here, Mays. DeShawn dropped into the plastic chair across from him, his oversized Tommy Hilfiger hoodie still damp from the October rain. At 19, DeShawn had the 1,000-yard stare of someone who's seen too much too young. Eyes that moved like a hunter's, always checking exits, always calculating angles. His gold nameplate chain read, D-Money in block letters. A gift from Marcus when the kid had proven himself reliable. Marcus looked up from the money, his own chain, a thick rope with Mays and diamond-studded letters catching the fluorescent light. Big Mama had bought him his first nameplate when he turned 16, back when the letters spelled Marcus and the gold was thin enough to turn his neck green. These days, everything he wore was real. The Cartier Santos watch, the diamond stud in his left ear, the custom-tailored polo sweater that cost more than most people made in a month. What you mean, too hot? We pulling in more paper than we ever did. That's the fucking problem. DeShawn pulled out a Newport, his hand shaking slightly. The kid had been smoking since he was 12, a habit born from standing on corners in the cold, waiting for customers who might be undercover cops. Remember what happened to little Kevin from 7 Mile? Marcus knew the story. Everyone on the east side knew the story. Little Kevin from the 7 Mile and Van Dyke crew had been moving 2 keys a week, driving that fly-ass pearl green Lexus SC400 with the custom interior, talking about expanding operations to the suburbs, maybe even getting into some BMF level business. Yeah, and found him behind Harper Discount Liquor yesterday morning. 3 bullets to the head, execution style. Word is the feds been watching him for months, taking pictures, building cases. DeShawn took a long drag, the smoke mixing with the industrial smell of car wash chemicals and the distant aroma of barbecue ribs from the soul food joint next door. They saying his own people set him up? Marcus stopped counting. The car wash hummed around them. Legitimate business covering. Illegitimate profits. The American dream with a Detroit twist. Through the office window, he could see his crew working. Antoine hosing down a customized Oldsmobile Cutlass with Superfly headlights and grill caps. Jerome detailing the chrome Dayton wire wheels that probably cost more than the car. All of them wearing the same Black Raiders starter jackets that signaled territory and allegiance. From the radio in the main bay, WJLB's John Mason was introducing the next set. That was Aaliyah with At Your Best. And coming up, we got Mary J. Blige. But first, let me tell y'all about this party happening tonight at Lush Lounge. You think they watching us? DeShawn exhaled, smoke toward the stained ceiling tiles where water damage had created abstract patterns that looked like maps of places none of them would ever see. Man, I know they watching us. Question is, what we gonna do about it? Marcus felt the weight of his .40 caliber Glock nestled under his sweater. The cold metal a reminder that in Detroit, every conversation could be your last. Outside, a DPD cruiser rolled slowly past. The officer inside giving the car wash the kind of look that said he knew exactly what kind of business they were really running. Chapter 2, Family Business. The smell of fried catfish and collard greens filled Marcus's grandmother's kitchen on Charlevoix Street, the same house where 4 generations of Williams men had learned the difference between surviving and living. The walls were lined with photographs. Marcus's grandfather in his Dodge Main uniform, his father in army greens before Vietnam changed him, his mother in her graduation cap from Cass Tech before the world got in the way. Big Mama sat at her usual spot at the kitchen table, reading glasses perched on her nose as she went through the Michigan Chronicle, occasionally tutting at the news. The headline read, "Violence continues to plague East Side neighborhoods," with a grainy photograph of yellow crime scene tape wrapped around a corner store Marcus recognized. Marcus Jerome Williams. You sit your narrow behind down and eat this food. At 26, Marcus was 6'2" of lean muscle, wrapped in a $300 polo sweater, gold chains worth more than some people's cars, but Big Mama's voice still made him feel like a kid caught stealing cookies. He sat down at the kitchen table, the same one where she'd helped him with homework when his mother was working double shifts at the Ford Rouge plant, before the massive layoffs of '92, before the block got bad, before choices became survival. "How's business, baby?" Big Mama asked without looking up from her paper, her tone carrying that special mixture of love and suspicion that only grandmothers possessed. Marcus almost choked on his cornbread. Through the window, he could see his Lexus parked outside, its custom alarm system blinking like a technological heartbeat. "What business, Big Mama?" "Boy, please. I've been living on these streets since before you was a gleam in your daddy's eye. I know what a car wash makes in this neighborhood, and I know what you've been driving." She folded the paper and fixed him with those eyes that could see through lies like they were glass. "Question is, what you planning to do about it?" "I don't know what you talking about." "Child, stop. Your cousin Terrell called me from Atlanta last week. Said he got a spot for you down there. Legitimate work, marketing for some record label, making good money without looking over your shoulder every 5 minutes." Marcus felt the walls closing in. Outside, Mrs. Washington was sweeping her porch, the same porch where she'd been sitting the night her son got shot at the corner of Charlevoix and Mac. 3 years later, she still swept that porch every day like she was trying to clean away the memory. "Big Mama, I can't just leave. Got responsibilities here." "To who?" "Them boys who'll forget your name the minute you in a casket." She reached across the table and grabbed his hand. Her skin was paper thin, but her grip was iron, strengthened by 67 years of holding this family together. "Your grandfather worked his whole life at Dodge Main. 42 years, never missed a day, came home every evening smelling like motor oil and pride." "Big Mama, you know what he got when they closed the plant in '80? Marcus knew the story, but he let her tell it. Some stories needed telling. A handshake and a pink slip. Died 6 months later, broken heart. Doctor said it was a stroke, but I know better. That man died from watching everything he built just disappear." Her eyes were wet now, reflecting the fluorescent kitchen light like pools of memory. "I ain't burying another Williams man behind these streets, not while I got breath in my body." Marcus pulled his hand away, the weight of gold chains suddenly feeling like shackles. "It ain't that simple, Big Mama. I got people depending on me. DeShawn's little sister needs medicine. Antoine's trying to keep his mama's house from getting foreclosed. Jerome's paying for his daughter's private school. And I got one person depending on me. She stood up, all 5'0" of righteous fury. You think your mama worked herself to death so you could end up like every other corner boy? She used to talk about you going to college, maybe becoming a lawyer or a doctor, said you had the brains for it. Mama died when I was 16, Big Mama. College money went to funeral costs, remember? And ain't no bank giving loans to black kids from Charlevoix Street. The silence stretched between them like a bridge neither wanted to cross. Outside, a police siren wailed in the distance, the soundtrack of their neighborhood as constant as breathing. From somewhere down the block, someone was playing Tupac's Dear Mama. The irony not lost on either of them. I remember, Big Mama said finally. I also remember the promise you made me at her funeral. Said you was gonna make something of yourself, make her proud. Marcus stood up, his appetite gone. Through the window, he could see kids playing in the street, the same street where he learned to be afraid of everything and trust nothing. I gotta go. Running away don't change the truth, baby. He kissed her forehead, breathing in the scent of cocoa butter and Royal Crown hair grease that had defined his childhood. I love you, Big Mama, but some promises get broken by circumstance. Chapter 3, The Connect. Red's Barbershop on Grand Avenue had been the unofficial town hall of Detroit's West Side since the 70s. This was where deals got made, where disputes got settled, where the pulse of the street could be felt in every conversation. The walls were covered with pictures of black excellence, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, local heroes who'd made it out and a few who hadn't, serving as both inspiration and reminder of what was possible. The smell of Royal Crown pomade mixed with the chemical bite of relaxer and the ever-present aroma of marijuana smoke that seemed to seep from the pores of half the customers. Someone had WJLB playing low, and Lisa was talking about the upcoming concert at Cobo Hall, featuring Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. Marcus walked in to find his connect, Vincent V-Mac McCullough, getting a shape-up in the corner chair. V-Mac was old school, 43 years old, gray streaks in his goatee, moves like chess instead of checkers. He'd survived YBI's downfall in the 80s, watched the Chambers brothers build their empire and fall, lived through 3 federal investigations and 2 attempts on his life. In the game that made him damn near immortal. Young Marcus, V-Mac said without opening his eyes as Red worked the clippers around his temples with surgical precision. Heard you've been having some interesting conversations. Conversations about what? About getting out the game. V-Mac's eyes opened, meeting Marcus's in the mirror. The shop went quiet except for the buzz of clippers and the distant sound of Lloyd Banks on the radio. See, that's the kind of talk that makes people nervous, makes them wonder if maybe you getting scared, maybe you thinking about talking to people you shouldn't be talking to. Marcus felt every eye in the barbershop turn toward him. 3 other customers, 2 barbers, and Big Jimmy who swept floors and listened to everything. All of them suddenly very interested in this conversation. The smell of fear mixed with the hair products and cologne. V, you know me better than that. I know you a smart young brother with ambition. I also know smart young brothers sometimes get ideas about changing their situation without considering how that affects other people's situations. V-Mac's voice carried the weight of someone who's seen ambitious young men make fatal mistakes. Remember white boy Rick? That little white boy from the east side who thought he could play both sides? Everyone in the shop knew that story. Rick Wershey Jr., the white kid who'd grown up in the predominantly black neighborhoods, got connected with the Colombian suppliers, started making real money, then got turned by the FBI when he was still 17. Now he was doing life in federal prison while the agents who used him had gone on to other cases. Rick got greedy, Marcus said carefully. Rick got scared. And when people get scared, they start thinking survival means betrayal. Red finished the cut and dusted V-Mac's neck with powder. V-Mac stood up, straightening his silk Versace shirt, checking himself in the mirror with the narcissism of a man who turned vanity into armor. His jewelry was understated but expensive. A simple gold Rolex Submariner, diamond studs that caught the light, a pinky ring that had belonged to his father. Walk with me, young blood. They stepped outside into the crisp October air. Grand Avenue stretched before them like a runway, abandoned lots mixed with thriving businesses, the Detroit hustle in full effect. A customized Oldsmobile Cutlass rolled past, its sound system rattling windows with Notorious B.I.G.'s Big Papa. V-Mac lit a Cuban cigar, the smoke curling around his face like incense. "You know why I survived this long?" he asked. "'Cause you smart." "Nah. Smart niggas get killed every day. Look at little Kevin. Boy had a genius level IQ. Graduated from Cass Tech with honors. Could have gone anywhere. But he forgot the first rule of this game." V. Mac pointed down the street with his cigar toward Wyoming Foods, where a small crowd was gathered outside, some buying lottery tickets, others conducting business that had nothing to do with groceries. "I survived because I understand the ecosystem." A burgundy BMW 740iL with 20-inch chrome rims pulled up to the curb, windows tinted darker than legal. V-Mac's security detail. Two men who looked like they could bench press small cars. One of them, a giant named Heavy, had served time with V-Mac back in the day. The other, called Prophet, had earned his nickname by being able to predict police movements like he had supernatural powers. "See that corner?" V-Mac continued, pointing toward the intersection where a young man in a Raiders jacket was conducting business with practiced nonchalance. "That's DeAndre's spot. Boy moves about 3 ounces a week, feeds his daughter, takes care of his mama who got diabetes. Now, if DeAndre decides he wants to go legitimate, open up a little restaurant or some shit, what happens to his spot? Somebody else takes it." "Exactly. But what if DeAndre's supplier, let's say, hypothetically, that supplier is connected to other suppliers, other spots, other people trying to feed their families? What happens when that supplier suddenly ain't reliable?" Marcus was beginning to understand. In the distance, he could hear the sound of a police helicopter, its rotors cutting through the afternoon air like mechanical thunder. The whole thing gets shaky. The whole thing gets shaky. And when things get shaky, people start getting desperate. When people get desperate, they start making phone calls to people with badges. V-Mac took a long pull from his cigar, the smoke mixing with the smell of barbecue from the rib joint across the street. "You feel me? So what you saying?" "I'm saying loyalty goes both ways. I took care of you when you was running around here in raggedy Jordans, looking for somebody to give you a chance, put you on, taught you the game, helped you build something real." His voice hardened like concrete setting. "Now, if you want to walk away from that, that's between you and your conscience. But walking away and talking, that's between you and me." The BMW's engine rumbled with barely contained power. V-Mac paused at the car door, his hand resting on the polished chrome handle. "Think about what I said, young Marcus, and think about what your grandmother would want. You dead in these streets, or you alive somewhere else." He paused, fixing Marcus with a stare that had intimidated federal agents. "But most importantly, think about what happens to the people who love you if you make the wrong choice." End of episode 1. Next time on Detroit Chronicles, Marcus faces the consequences of being seen with Detective Patterson. Big Mama receives an unexpected visit, and the streets of Detroit demand their payment in blood. That's another chapter from the Tales and Stories, fam. If these stories take you back to the D you remember, or help you understand the D you never knew, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Drop a comment and tell us your Detroit story. What block you claimed, what party store you remember, what ride you were pushing. Follow us on the gram at Detroit Tales and Stories for behind the scenes content and rare photos from the era. Until next time, keep the D alive in your heart. Peace.